Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Natasha, psychotherapist turned private practice owner. On this channel, I share the real, unfiltered journey and provide you practical tips on how to build your own business, your own private practice, or in other words, to go from clinician/therapist to mental health CEO. So today I want to talk about something that I don't think gets talked about enough. Going into private practice, especially on social media, is extremely glamorized. And I think that it creates, for many people, an impression that it's a very easy thing to do. Now, it's a very doable thing to do as long as you are disciplined, you have motivation, and you have a vision. But it doesn't mean that it's easy. It requires a person who can think outside of the box. It requires someone who can wear the clinical hat as well as wear the business hat. That business hat is extremely, extremely important. But outside of that glamorization, I don't think people talk about the mistakes. So come a little bit closer, because today I want to talk to you about mistakes. I want to share with you all some of the mistakes that I made during that first year when I opened my practice. So guys, my first mistake was not fully flushing out my intake forms. So when I first opened my doors, I really thought that I was being thorough with my intake forms because I had created all of them myself. I had put them all together. I did not use any templates or anything like that. And because of that, I just knew that I had done an amazing job putting all of these forms together. But as time passed, I actually started to realize that there were gaps in my forms. For example, there are certain questions that I should have been asking from the very beginning. Questions that insurance companies, I am an insurance-based practice, so there are particular pieces of information that insurance companies look for on those intake forms to justify services, or to show that this person meets medical necessity to be receiving therapy treatment with you or through your practice. And then in addition to that, and beyond insurance, I realized that one of the other gaps is there were also pieces of information that clinically I also wanted to know. Things that would help me to better filter out if a client was appropriate for me, things to help me filter what was necessary during the treatment process, just kind of what helps to get better understanding and insight of the client's biopsychosocial or their past history. So the lesson that I learned from that very first mistake is to basically don't rush the forms. Spend time on making sure that you flesh out the questions. Make sure that you're answering questions that insurance companies will want answered because they're going to be paying you for these services, as well as clinical questions that you would also want, not just today, but also 6 months from now. The good thing is that these are forms, so you can always revise as you go on. You can make changes as often as necessary. In the years that I've had my practice, I have revised my forms time and time again. There is no cap to how many times you can do that. So just know that 6 months from now, 2 weeks from now, if you need to add a question, take off a question, you can always do that. The second mistake, not logging my business expenses. Oh my gosh. I think for like the first 4 or 6 months, I barely logged my business expenses. And so when tax season came, the amount of sweat and energy and nighttime hours that went into finding receipts, figuring out what I spent money on, figuring out what was a business expense and what wasn't, where was it separated, like all of that, trying to do that last minute because taxes are due, is not fun. It literally was chaos. It's a little bit easier when you have recurring receipts or recurring payments of something, but if you have an expense that isn't recurring, maybe it's not a subscription and it's just something that comes up here and there, maybe intermittently, so frequently enough, but not on a consistent basis, or the money doesn't come out at the same time every month. It can be very chaotic trying to gather all of those pieces of information at the very last minute. It's not fun, y'all. So my advice is from day one, before you open your doors, please just go ahead and set up a system, whether you're using Google spreadsheets, whether you're using QuickBooks, it really doesn't matter, whatever tool that you prefer, set it up, so that the moment you open your doors and you start making business expenses, you are able to log them as they go. You will not regret setting that up before you open your doors. My third mistake, I guess we can describe it as hiding my practice. So when I opened my private practice, I did set up a Psychology Today profile, and that was it. I didn't tell anyone really that I had opened. My husband knew, my mom knew, maybe one or two friends who were also psychotherapists knew, but that's kind of where it ended. Now, naturally, I'm not good. I'm not the type of person who's great at walking into a room and shaking everyone's hand and saying, hi, my name is Natasha. This is what I do. I have 2 elephants. I like swimming, da 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 da. It's not in me to do that. So I'm not good at telling people that, hey, I'm a business owner and this is what I do. And I realized that by not having that skill, I probably missed out on being able to build my practice in a way that would have probably allowed me to leave my full-time job a lot quicker. I will say, and I'm grateful for, and I can appreciate that I did have a steady flow of clients coming in through my Psychology Today profile, and that did allow me to kind of have a steady rhythm that was not too overwhelming. So I can appreciate that. But I also do recognize that if I had put myself out there and used my own voice to connect with people in the community, as well as with other providers like PCPs, oncologists, psychologists, I would have definitely gotten more clients a lot quicker. So if you take one thing from that last mistake, don't hide, let your voice go, let it roam, and tell people. Let people know that you are out there. Let people know what services you provide. You never know who you can be a blessing to, who you can serve, who you can provide treatment for if you just let the world know that you exist. And then mistake number 4 was starting with paper charts. EHR systems were a thing when I opened my practice, but for some reason, I don't know, I just didn't think of it, which was weird because at my full-time job, we were using an electronic medical record system, but I didn't think of that for myself. So yes, I started with the paper charts, paper forms, intake forms, all of that. Now, it did work, but it wasn't necessarily the best fit for me. Doing things electronically, it just streamlines things, it's quicker, everything is in one place. You're not having to worry about potentially losing a piece of paper, having to print, waste ink, waste trees. You don't have to do any of that. It also takes up space because you have to store physical files in a locked area. And when you do things electronically, you don't have to take up that space anywhere. When I finally switched over to an electronic medical record system, it definitely made things a lot smoother. One of the cons or downsides, however, to an EHR system compared to paper charts, using paper charts forced your client to sign everything, or it forced my clients to sign everything right there in front of me in person. So they 100% of the time would sign everything that I needed them to sign. When things are electronic, people can skip over things, people can forget to sign things, people can start a form and not finish a form. And so that's one of the downsides. You might end up having to chase people and say, hey, I really need you to complete these forms before we can have our first session because we talked about it. Rules: do not start therapy until they've signed the dotted line. But outside of that, in short, I will always choose electronic over paper charts. For me, that's what works. So those are just a few of the mistakes that I made during my first year of private practice. And believe me, there are more mistakes, but I just wanted to start out by sharing those 4. I do plan to share more in future videos. Overall, here's the thing. I need you guys to understand that mistakes do not equate to failure. You're going to make mistakes. You're supposed to make mistakes. Honestly, those mistakes mean you're learning, you're adjusting, and you're building something real with your blood, your sweat, your tears. I'm not necessarily saying this whole process is going to make you cry, but there may be some days somewhere along the way where you may shed a tear or two, because business ownership, it's hard. You will not get it all perfect, and that's okay, as long as you realize that you can pivot and you can adjust along the way. So if you've made a mistake in your practice journey, go ahead and drop it in the comments. I'm sure that there's someone out there who can learn from you as they're learning from me. Plus, I'd love to hear your story too. So thank you for spending time with me. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Until next time.